Agent actions enable you to create custom AI automations in code, like translating your content at scale. But what's really cool about these is one, they exist within Sanity, so you don't need to go integrate other services. But two, and more impressively, the output of the AI automatically matches the shape of your schema. It understands the structure of your content, like the fields you have and the validation rules, for example. We're going to look at three agent actions. First, translate, then generate, and then transform. And then at the end, we'll look under the hood at the technical side of these agent actions. Let's dive into Sanity Studio, where I want this workflow where I always author my posts in English, and I want them to automatically translate to Spanish anytime I make changes. Okay, now we're going to publish this, and we're going to keep an eye on the list of posts here and wait for our Spanish version to enter. And here it is. So we had an agent action run. It knows I authored this post. It was in English. And now we have a Spanish version. And I'll note too that I have specifically instructed it to not translate some of my product names like media library. We're going to revisit this example later, but for right now, I want to switch to a more robust translation example where I'm in this company and we have a lot of different languages. This is a lot to manage, and also we're just introducing this translation service, so I want a way to historically go back and just manage all of my translations. So this company created an app using Sanity's App SDK that lists all of our different documents. So right now, each one of these is an article. And it also lets us know the languages that have been translated and have not. For example, red is have not, yellow is a fallback language, and up here we've got green that this one is done. And for this example, I'm going to select just one document. We could select multiple at a time if we wanted to. And I'm going to have the translations go into a release. That way I can review them all together and then release them simultaneously. Let's translate them. Great, now this one document has been translated to 11 different languages. Let's click on one of these to navigate over to Studio. And here we can see this document, and if we go up to my content release, we'll see I have a list of all of these different translations, letting me modify them, review them, and then ultimately run the release so they all go out at the same time. These agent actions can run anywhere that you run code. So we've seen them triggered by actions in the Studio and App SDK. Now let's take a look at generating new content from existing content. In this case, we're an e-commerce company and we just got data in from our supplier, and it's just this unstructured blob of content. But it needs to ultimately match my structured content. So here I have a product document type and there's all these different fields. Instead of manually copying and pasting this, what I've done is provided my editors a supplier product intake document where they can go in here, paste this in, and we're going to publish this and then switch over to our product documents and wait for this agent action to interpret this content, know our schema, and then align it to our schema. And here it comes. Let's click on this. And great, we'll see that our fields are filled out. There was even some typos in that initial supplier info document, but they've been fixed. All of the weights and measurements materials have been mapped accordingly. And we could take this a step further and automate the Google Sheet to Sanity process, but for demo purposes, I've done it via a document. Generate enables us to fill in fields with content that's typically based on existing content. So another example is if you have missing SEO data like a meta title and meta description, you can use generate to fill that in based on the context of that post. Now let's look at the third agent action, transform. Going back to that first example, I wrote this sentence in the dreaded passive voice. Videos are created by me weekly. And I probably have a lot of other posts like this, and I want to fix them in one go. I'm going to switch over to my code editor where I have a script that's going to look at all my documents and run an agent action to look for the passive voice and fix it to make sure that it is an active voice. Okay, it's done running. I'm going to switch back to my studio and see that this sentence now says I create videos weekly. Transform is our go-to for taking existing content and modifying it. This is really great if we have historical data that we want to transform to a new way of doing things. Now, let's look under the hood to see what these agent actions actually are. I've moved the 3 examples that we've looked at to this one file. We can see that these agent actions are available in the Sanity client. There's agent action, and then there's generate, transform, and translate. Therefore, we can run these anywhere that we run code. Let's expand the first one. We're not going to go into too much detail here, but just to get an idea of how these are put together. For generate, this is where we took that supplier information and created a new document. We specify what document we want to target. We provide an instruction. And in this instruction, we have a variable, which we're able to pass in via the instruction params. And it's best practice to do it this way versus interpolating the variable directly into the instruction, because AI has more context of what are the variables versus what is the static text. Now let's look at transform. We're going to see a very similar setup. In this case, we specify a target, specifically saying we want to modify the body. There are a lot of controls you can put on these actions to ensure that they're modifying exactly what you want, excluding the fields that you don't want to touch, and more. Like we'll see in the translate action. Similar setup as before, but we have some translation specific properties, like we're specifying the from language, the to language, and we have these protected phrases. So in that first example, I didn't want it to translate media library, as that's a Sanity product name. And there are even more properties we can add on to here to help steer AI in the direction that we want it to go. These agent actions exist in the Sanity client, and they can run anywhere that you run code. Agent actions enable you to run AI automations in code, and they ensure that the output matches your schema. And that's Agent Actions 101. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.